Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining this session of the Retail Food Service Innovation Summit focused on how AI is improving perimeter profits and reducing food waste. We're going to put the innovation in retail food service innovation with this session. That's because we're joined by a retailer with a unique operating model and a Silicon Valley startup that is helping them solve some difficult challenges. I'm excited to welcome Scott Schutte, Vice President of Produce at Fresh Thyme, and also Matt Schwartz, CEO and co-founder of Afresh Technologies. Scott's a produce industry veteran. He spent time with the Bash's family of stores, Sunflower Farmers Market, and Sprouts before joining Fresh Thyme 5 years ago. And Matt is a little newer to the food retailing world, having graduated from Stanford a few years back. But while he was there, he and his roommates created a company that leverages AI to reduce food waste, improve in-stock levels, and grow profits. Now, that's a powerful combination, so it stands to reason that Afresh is getting a lot of attention from investors and retailers alike here lately, and for sure. And it's why I'm excited to have somebody like Scott, who's a veteran and has spent a lot of years in the produce world. He's going to fill us in on who Fresh Thyme is and the company's value proposition with shoppers, and then talk about how they're leveraging AI and the Afresh solution. And then we're going to transition from that to hear from Matt about the solution itself, some background on its development and how it's being used currently, and then, but more importantly, or just as important actually, applications in other areas of the perimeter, such as prepared foods. So that's a little bit of the structure for our time together. And I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Scott if you'd like to get us started, Scott.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you offering me the opportunity to be on today's presentation. A little bit about Fresh Thyme. Fresh Thyme is a retail market in the Midwest. Fresh Thyme Market actually is a focus in the natural and organic channel, with our primary function of providing our customers with real food at real affordable prices. So our primary goal right now, and it was 6 or 7 years ago also, was to make that healthy living in the Midwest affordable to all. So in a very short time period, we've established a strong foothold in the marketplace within the Midwest. Our rapid growth plan has included opening 73 stores and a distribution center, all within 11 Midwestern states. All of that was also done within a 5-year short period of time. So our store footprint is a little bit different than regular conventional grocers. We're only about 27,000 square feet in total size. It's our average store size. Very easy to navigate, very customer friendly. But within this footprint, we do operate a fresh meat, fresh seafood department, along with the fresh produce department. We've also have departments like the bakery and the deli, the dairy, our dry grocery department, and one of our best kept secrets, a premium vitamin and supplement department. We've got many of offerings that are tailored to our customers following specific dietary needs, everything from vegan, paleo, keto, a vegetarian diet, all the way to wheat and gluten-free diets. So no matter what path our customers follow on their journey for healthier living, we're the real solution for all these customers' needs. Big question that you had posed earlier in the introduction, Mike, and that is why Fresh Thyme was involved or chose to be involved with Afresh and the need for Afresh within our business. And for decades, I have found that technology in particular that dealt with forecasted and projected ordering was always custom tailored for the needs of dry grocery. It was developed and put in place for the needs of replenishment of canned soup and those type of items, not perishable items, and didn't have an area of expertise to support perishable departments. Afresh is probably the only software program that I've had the opportunity to work with in over 3 decades that has a primary focus on the needs of perishable departments. It's 100% perishable driven. It's 100% perishable created, and it is definitely our biggest reason for partnering with the Afresh team. So without further ado, I'd like to throw it over to a partner that I've had great success with, one of the leaders of our Afresh partnership, Mr. Matt Schwartz.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, and also Mike. Yeah, really excited to be a part of this today. And I think high level, it's harder for me to give an overview of Afresh that would be better than what Scott just said. I think ultimately for us, we started the company to be of service to grocers. And in our background, my personal background working in food, Mike, you mentioned newer to the game, but definitely had worked in industry prior to grad school at Stanford, where I partnered with my co-founders and now our burgeoning team. We really came to see and believe that the future of the grocery retail industry was fresh, and that the perishable departments, leading with produce, but also food service, meat, seafood, proteins, and bakery beyond, were really driving growth in the industry. And what really differentiates brick and mortar grocer, retailer with brick and mortar assets from the online competition. And at the same time, we also saw that most, if not all, of the technology that had been built for some of the core functionality for retailers around merchandising, replenishment, ordering, and store operations had been built first for other industries or for general merchandise, and would work in the CPG landscape, but struggle when it comes to all of the inherent complexity of fresh food, be it the really high perishability, the production steps in stores, and all the other kind of complexities that are inherent to fresh food. And so we saw this divide of fresh driving the future of the industry, technology being built for other things first, and we kind of asked ourselves, if you revisited this set of problems and tried to operate from the context of a grocer and really think fresh first, how might every step of that system really be different? And so we were super fortunate to partner with Fresh Thyme early with Scott and his team, who have been phenomenal partners for us, and deploy our solution across the chain. So our goal is to be of service, to really help drive extraordinary profit, reduce food waste, and make food fresher to delight customers in the perimeter category. So really excited to be here talking about that with you today.
Okay. So Scott, when Matt came to you when you first met and said, I'm going to help you reduce food waste, improve in-stock, and grow profits, as somebody who'd been in the industry a long time, what was your reaction to that bold set of claims?
Extremely excited, Mike. This has been promised to me many of times, but with some of the proposals that were put on the table early, and the same exact quest that I had, which was to immediately reduce food waste, we were perfectly aligned at that point in time. And the more that we actually dug into the opportunity with Afresh, the more that we realized there were very good parallels for both companies. We have a lot in common. We're both startup companies, and we're both eager to succeed and grow and develop. And there was a lot of trust put into it, but early on, the trust proved very successful. We did do a couple quick little test runs that immediately showed some extreme positive results. And those test runs catapulted an entire company into quickly converting over to an Afresh system.
Okay. What's the implementation look like? How does that work?
Well, normal implementations are sometimes very long, tedious, and difficult processes to teach and to educate store-level folks on how to use them. One of the big differences with the Afresh program, besides the fact that it's really custom-tailored for the needs of perishable departments, is the fact that the ease of use is probably one of the biggest claims to fame. Not only is it an easy piece of software to use for the store-level folks, but it is a training tool and piece of software for those folks. For my department in the produce world, the toughest job for the produce manager happens to be writing an accurate and effective order every single day. And it's a big challenge to graduate to a level of effectiveness in doing so. With the Afresh program, It's very easy to take a good manager and make them a great manager by utilizing the tools that Afresh puts forth. It also takes great managers, turns great managers into opportunistic type managers to find additional areas of opportunity they never knew that they had. So overall, ease of use, overall training and development, everything has been top notch for our company.
What sort of feedback are you getting from managers?
Lots of excitement, lots of celebration out in the stores. We've taken a lot of time and effort off of their plate as far as an order writing process goes and allowed them to be on the sales floor and representing Fresh Thyme from a customer service standpoint rather than a backroom order taker, clerical type standpoint. Kind of a funny story, Mike. We've had a mix of produce managers within our company throughout the last 5 or 6 years. Being new and starting up, opening stores, and as quickly as we have, we've had a vast variety of produce managers that were 25 years old all the way to 55 or 60 years old. So rolling out a program like Afresh had a little bit of hesitation because of how high tech it was. I had some concerns over some of the veteran produce managers that had been using a clipboard and a pencil for years and years and years. That was the way they learned how to write a produce order and to be effective in that process. So what I was asking them to do is put the clipboard down and pick up an iPad that had the software of Afresh programmed into it and learn the power of the software, trust the power of the software, and put it to place. And my early speculation was that I would have a difficult challenge with some of the veteran team members for Fresh Thyme. I was pleasantly mistaken that the veterans of Fresh Thyme, the ones that have been around in the business for a long time, are probably one of the big groups that gravitated to the program quite a bit faster than I originally thought. It's a no-brainer for the younger group. Technology and the younger crowd, they go hand in hand together. They're used to the ease of an iPhone or an iPad, and this program was extremely easy for them to adapt to and to learn how to use. So the power is definitely in the iPad right now, and all demographics, all age groups are succeeding wildly beyond my expectations to take ordering and the accuracy of their ordering to whole different levels. It's been fun.
They're probably wondering why didn't we have this 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
They are definitely scratching their heads every day about that. They love it.
Yeah. Now I'm curious, you all shifted to, I believe, a self-distribution model some years ago compared to a third party. Would this have been possible under the prior arrangement, or did you have to have the self-distribution in place to make this happen?
No, I believe that this would have actually been a strong possibility in the before life or the early stages of Fresh Thyme. It happens to be just a perfect match for our current situation of being self-distributed. We've been self-distributed for the last 3 years, but one of the best kept secrets from Afresh happens to be what happened in our supply chain after implementing Afresh. We really had a strong desire to improve our food waste at store level and help that ordering accuracy from that perspective. What we didn't realize, what's materialized and continues to get stronger, is the right sizing of our supply chain inventory and making sure that we don't have those hills and valleys and the ebbs and flows that we had before with overages or underages of product coming through the supply chain. So once we are able to optimize Afresh at store level and control inventory levels, reduce food waste substantially, the cause and effect of that was probably 3 to 4 weeks after implementing it, our supply chain went through a nice little phase of inventory reduction and normalcy as far as the flow of supply chain items. So it was a pleasant surprise again, but something that has been a very, very positive impact on the company from a financial standpoint and from a quality of product. A customer is now receiving product that does have quite a bit higher satisfaction levels because of additional shelf life. We're ordering correctly, and we're inventorying and keeping in stock at a much better rate.
Okay. I want to bring Matt here in a second, but I want to finish with, I want to get one more in because you've mentioned supply chain. Obviously, supply chains have been very disrupted in the last, going back to March. think about all of the stuff that happened with the pantry loading and the demand surges and, you know, the flow of goods and all that sort of stuff. How did it work having Afresh in place, or was Afresh in place when all of this was going on? Because what an interesting time to try to implement a new technology.
Absolutely. And yes, to your question, Afresh was pleasantly in place at the time when the COVID-19 did take place. Prior to that, having Afresh into the system, we had some concerns that we needed some help and some assistance with from an ordering standpoint. And that was a number of things that affected our business differently. Being in the Midwest, our weather conditions drastically affected our in-stock condition and our ordering ability. One of the big hopes for Afresh on bringing them aboard was to help us navigate through the major snowstorms and winter activity that we have in the Midwest that can stunt business for a number of days. It also disrupts the supply chain. It also creates many in-stock conditions. And early on in the implementations of the Afresh program, a snowstorm was not a big deal at all for the Afresh program. The snowstorm actually, especially the repeat snowstorms, were handled with ease, keeping us in stock, putting proper orders in the next forecast from the stores, and continuing on with a proper supply chain that was feeding them. When we had the COVID virus take place in March, it was a major concern as things were starting to break loose that the Afresh program would be tested to its maximum limits. And we were uncertain. We knew that it could handle snowstorms. We knew that it could handle a hot competitor's ad that was in a region close by. We knew that it could handle all kinds of other idiosyncrasies, but obviously nothing like a major pandemic had ever been tested in this program before. So the night before, really, the bulk of the pandemic launched and took place, there were some phone calls back and forth between the Fresh Thyme team and the Afresh team, attempting to find out how ready we were going to be for what was about to happen. I'm very proud to say that the results afterwards and the results for the last 6 months since the pandemic officially broke has been nothing but positive. Our in-stock conditions have been nothing but stellar for the company. We've in fact improved our in-stock conditions in produce by over 80%. So we've had huge success with staying in stock, but with also keeping our supply chain on their toes for those pantry stuff items like you talked about earlier. The potatoes, the onions, the carrots, some of those items that flew off the shelf for us the first day were the same items that the very next day Afresh was forecasting bigger, more robust orders to handle that additional customer traffic and customer interest in those categories. We literally didn't skip a beat. That's not bragging, that's reality with Afresh saving the day for us 6 months ago.
Awesome. Okay, nice segue to Matt there. Geez, tremendous, great results. You know, I know we want to transition a little bit and kind of talk about new use cases for Afresh as you maybe extend into other areas of the perimeter. You want to talk about that a little bit, Matt, and potential applications beyond the basic the produce area and what might be on your product roadmap playbook?
Yeah, and you know, really appreciate all of the really awesome color that Scott was giving about the program. And I think, you know, to your original question, Mike, and to the topic around AI driving profitability in fresh departments, you know, Scott was kind of talking about some of our secret sauce being the way that it's so easy to use for store level employees and how they trust it, and then also how accurate the forecasts are. And I think that first bucket is typically underappreciated by a lot of the existing systems that are out there. You know, just how hard it is to be a fresh department manager and just how complicated that job is. And so to the topic, and I think something that, you know, hopefully could be helpful for all retailers is to appreciate the way that AI not just on a demand forecast, but in the whole design of a system, including the way it powers the workflow of a store level employee, can really drive kind of game-changing adherence to a program and make it super responsive to some of the idiosyncratic events, unfortunately, like COVID, that we're experiencing now. So I just thought that was a great call out from Scott, and something that, to segue into your question, Mike, when we're thinking about the broader kind of perimeter, I think one of the things that has plagued the fresh departments and industry, especially if we think about food service, where items are so complicated, there's production steps, they're really perishable. The merchandising changes very frequently when it comes to new schematics, new setups, new recipes, new suppliers, all the time in food service. All of those dynamics are super complicated. And so if you have a rigid system that's driving a forecast or driving an ordering recommendation or driving a production planning recommendation or driving your fresh item management, you're inevitably going to have things that break down when the unpredictable happens. The predictable is the unpredictable. Edge cases are certainty in the fresh departments. And so the way that I would challenge people to think about it is, how might modern AI systems that are built for fresh first, not just for a demand forecast, but for the whole system with the interface design, really drive scalable benefit and things that are really easy to adhere to for that critical employee, which is the store level labor. And so that's what I'm excited about our work with Fresh Thyme, extending from the success in produce to proteins and food service, which is what we'll be doing with them next, which we're very excited about.
Can you go into a little more detail on that? Like, because aren't the use cases in prepared foods different than apples and oranges and potatoes and carrots compared to ready-made sandwich or the deli meats that go into, the components of the prepared foods?
Definitely. And it's interesting, I think the industry obviously lays itself out by department when it comes to produce, food service, which often contains bakery, prepared foods, deli, and proteins, meat and seafood. But if you think about it from a technology perspective, and if I were to kind of nerd out about it with my team, we think about item archetypes, where you might have a slow-moving, non-perishable UPC item. You might have a perishable bulk item, like a lot of produce. You might have a perishable UPC item, and you might have prepared foods that are made in the store. And those kind of items actually cut across the store. So in produce, the majority of items are bulk produce, may not be barcoded, but they also sell croutons and juice, which are kind of those non-perishable UPCs. And they also cut fruit and have other value-added products. So there's actually penetration in like items like that in produce. In food service, you have a lot of production in store, but you also have a lot of those kind of barcoded or, in some cases, less perishable items. So that diversity of archetype of item carries across the store, and our system is built to span across the departments in that way. I think critically, there's a higher percentage of production, which is a critical differentiator for a product that's going to work in food service. But you can think about some of those skill sets of user interface design that's really good, AI for forecasting and production, et cetera, that span across those departments.
That's great. I like the nerding out part, because I started this off talking about how we were going to put the innovation in retail food service innovation, and I think you lived up to that billing at the start. So
I tried.
Yeah. Well, I think any final words, Scott?
No, I loved everything that Matt had to say. It is so true. I've had past experience running food service departments at the same time, simultaneously running a produce department. I can honestly say that the majority of my time was spent in the food service departments. It's a very complex department, a lot going on all at the same time in that department. With my past experience in food service, though, as a testament to the Afresh program, I would have no doubt that it would easily help the perishable departments and the other side of the store out equally. We're ready right now to launch the program into our meat department. Both meat and seafood will be launching Afresh. And then the next phase for us is moving over to our food service department and launching it both bakery and deli in that department. I think all of those departments have some very unique challenges. They've also got some unique team members that are working in those departments. Afresh helps put all those team members on that same high level, equal playing field. And that's something we don't have, or we didn't have before in the past. So if it takes a good manager and makes them great, that's what we're looking for. But the part that I like most about it is we do have a lot of great managers out there, and it challenges great managers to even be better than what they do right now. So looking forward to it rolling out in the other departments. And I'm actually looking forward to the Vice President of Meat, our Director of Food Service, to stop knocking on my door, asking when they can have Afresh over in their department. So it'll be a warm welcome to get it over into those other departments.
All right. Well, let's end on that. Scott, thank you very much. Matt, thank you. And just as a reminder, this presentation will be available on progressivegrocer.com throughout October. And you can catch all of the sessions from Retail Food Service Innovation on our website. And thank you for joining us. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Mike.